Theresa May passed this time, but the idea that the UK is even coming close to basically staying in the European Union, conservatives over there say that's a disaster. Let's bring in Robin Simcox, a fellow at the Heritage Foundation's Margaret Thatcher Center for Freedom. Robin, what's your take on all of this?
Well, where to start? I think Theresa May has survived, clearly, but I don't see a very fundamental change in the situation. There's still a very unpopular Brexit deal on the table, which she can't generate any support for in the House of Parliament. She struggles to get much support from it within her own party. And yet, at the same time, the coup against her essentially has failed. She's going to be in position now for at least another year because there can't be another leadership challenge in that time. So you kind of see Britain drifting, sliding onto this situation where we're coming out of the EU in just 15 weeks, but no one has any real idea at the moment what that looks like, because I still think this deal that Theresa May has put together, she's not going to get many more concessions, I don't think, from the European Union on it, not enough to change people's opinions of it. And so I don't see how it possibly passes. And so I don't really see, at the moment, it appears she's playing for time, but I'm not exactly sure what she thinks could change between now and January when the vote is scheduled.
And Robin, the deal is really no Brexit deal that Theresa May is offering, meaning that the UK effectively does stay tied in a customs union to the European Union. But you're right, in 15 weeks' time, by law, the UK could crash out of the EU, right?
Yes, yes.
And that could be a real market shock. Go ahead.
Well, absolutely. And you know, I think it struck me as I was listening to her comments just now in your package from outside number 10 Downing Street of all these wonderful things about how the deal is going to take back British control of borders, of finance, of trade and all those things. And I think, well, chance would be a fine thing, because that's not what's presented with Theresa May's deal at the moment. And so obviously there's a great deal of uncertainty in the UK for businesses and for society more broadly, to be frank. And I think it's hard to get away from the fact that the deal, the way that Britain has tried to get out of the European Union has been pretty much mismanaged from day one. Yeah,
that's the point. I mean, why does the UK want to stay tied to a failing Europe? The European model is failing. You've seen that, and that's a danger for us. This is a wake-up call for how the U.S., runs its own economic affairs, right, Robin?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, so there was obviously a majority of people who voted to come out of the European Union, so I think there was a recognition that there was obviously great problems with it. I think one of the really interesting things that the Brexit vote has thrown up is I've seen more pro-EU sentiment on the streets of London as a result of that vote than I ever saw before in my life, because it's brought some dormant, I guess, supporters of the European Union out. But what people can't ever answer, I think, is the fundamentals of, I mean, look, this isn't just the United Kingdom. You're seeing votes across Europe of people and protests across Europe of people who feel they're not being effectively represented by their leaders, they're not effectively being represented by the European Union. And I think generally there's a very significant increase in Europe of distrust of these mainstream parties and of institutions like the European Union.
Here's the bottom line. Your vote essentially doesn't matter. If you have the European Court of Justice continuing to set the rules for the UK, that's an issue. In other words, UK voters have to answer effectively, UK politicians have to answer effectively to the European Court of Justice. The European Court of Justice even said, and said, wait in, you don't have to abide by Brexit.
Yeah, absolutely. And
that was stunning. That's stunning.
And isn't it incredible? I mean, the tortuous and extremely complicated process which it's taken for Britain to withdraw from the European Union kind of proves the point that people said all along, that the European Union was so firmly entrenched in its regulations, so firmly entrenched in the British system, that essentially British parliamentary democracy wasn't really representative to the people.
You're
going
to have flatlining growth. You're going to have, there are riots already in the street. You have a lame duck presidency in Angela Merkel. You've got Italy turning upside down, the third most indebted country in the world. Spain's in trouble. And, you know, the question remains, it's a matter of political will and resolve to get in there and fix the problem. Europe is a swamp. D.C. is a swamp. Both sides of the political aisle say that here, Robin. What would Margaret Thatcher say if she was dealing with this today? How would she deal with it?
Well, yeah, I think there's probably no doubt that Thatcher would have taken a bit more of a robust approach to this than Theresa May. But ultimately, the problem is, right, we don't have Margaret Thatcher as Prime Minister. We have Theresa May, and we're going to have Theresa May for a little while.
No, wait.
Yeah.
This is a time that not just tries men's souls, but men's spines. That's the issue. We need political will and political resolve. What would Margaret Thatcher say to the Conservatives and to Theresa May? Do this. What would she tell them to do? That's what we want to hear. What is it, Robin?
I think she would certainly encourage a much tougher attitude towards Brussels and a much firmer resolve in trying to get a new deal. I just don't see it happening, unfortunately.
Okay, Robin Simcox, great to see you, sir. Thank you so much for coming in from the Margaret Thatcher Center at the Heritage Foundation. Great to see you, Robin. Thanks for your insights there.